Emma Carter stared at her wedding ring as the morning sun poured through the windows, making the gold band gleam like it still meant something. It used to. It symbolized love, partnership, a promise of forever. Now, it felt like a shackle, one that tightened around her finger every time she looked at her husband, Lucas. They had been married for only 6 months. And yet, something was off. No, not something, someone. Sophie, the woman Lucas called his little sister. Though there was nothing about their relationship that felt normal. From the moment Emma met Sophie, she had sensed it. The way Sophie inserted herself into every conversation, every decision, every moment that should have belonged to just the two of them. The way Lucas allowed it. No. Encouraged it. As if he couldn't function without her. Emma had tried to ignore it. She had told herself she was overreacting when Sophie corrected how she cooked Lucas's favorite meals, claiming, "Oh, he doesn't like it that way." She had forced herself to smile when Sophie tagged along on date nights, saying, "Lucas and I always do things together." And Lucas? He had just laughed. "Come on, babe, she's family." Emma had married Lucas. But somehow, Sophie had come as part of the package. But nothing compared to what happened next. Their honeymoon was supposed to be an escape, a private getaway to Italy, where they could finally have time for just the two of them. The tickets were booked. The bags were packed. But then, at the airport, standing next to Lucas with her own suitcase in hand, was Sophie. Emma had frozen in place. What is she doing here? Lucas looked at her like she was the one being unreasonable. She was feeling lonely, so I invited her. Emma's heart pounded. You invited your sister on our honeymoon? Before she could process the sheer insanity of it, Sophie pouted. Maria, am I not allowed? I want to be part of my brother's precious memories. Emma barely heard the words. All she heard was the blood rushing in her ears. Was this real? Was this actually happening? She turned to Lucas, expecting him to tell Sophie to go home, to finally set a boundary. Instead, he sighed like she was the one making a scene. Emma, don't be difficult. Everyone's watching. Emma looked around. He was right. Travelers bustled past, but a few nearby had slowed down, their eyes flicking toward the unfolding drama. And that was when it hit her. This wasn't a discussion. This was manipulation. And Lucas was choosing Sophie. Again, Emma inhaled sharply. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, she reached into her bag, pulled out her boarding pass, and held it out. Give me your ticket, she said, her voice calm in a way that didn't match the storm inside her. I paid for it. I'll decide who gets on that plane. Lucas blinked. What are you? Before he could finish, Emma's phone rang. Her father's name flashed on the screen. She answered. Emma. His voice was serious. You need to come home. There's something you need to see. For the first time in months, she felt clarity. She looked at Lucas, at Sophie, and then, without another word, she turned and walked away. Emma sat in the back of a cab, her fingers gripping the phone tightly as she listened to her father's voice on the other end. There's something you need to see, he repeated. Something about Lucas. Her stomach twisted. It wasn't just about Sophie anymore. It wasn't just about the suffocating presence of his so-called sister. This was something deeper. Tell me now, she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. I'd rather show you in person. Her father replied. Come to the office as soon as you land. The office. Carter Holdings. Her family's company, the same one Lucas had fought so hard to be part of. Emma hung up and stared out the window as the city blurred past. Lucas had always played the devoted husband, the supportive, charming man who had encouraged her to take over after her father stepped down. But now, an unease settled over her. What had he done? By the time the cab pulled up to the Carter Holdings building, she had convinced herself that this was just business. Maybe Lucas had made a bad investment. Maybe he'd tried to push through a deal without consulting her. But as soon as she stepped into her father's office and saw the documents spread across his desk, she knew it was worse than that. Much worse. Her father gestured for her to sit. Emma, you need to brace yourself. She did. She needed to. But when she saw the name at the top of the file, her breath caught in her throat. Sophie Langford. Emma's gaze flicked over the papers. Bank statements. Legal documents. A series of transfers, large sums of money being funneled into accounts linked to Sophie. "What is this?" she whispered. "Evidence," her father said. "Sophie isn't who Lucas says she is." Emma's heart pounded as she scanned the records. Sophie Langford, an alias. Her real name was Sophia Lane, and she had a criminal record. Fraud, embezzlement, extortion, and Lucas had been covering for her. For months, money has been disappearing from Carter Holdings. Her father continued, "At first, we thought it was just an accounting error. But when we dug deeper, we found this." He slid another paper across the desk. Emma's eyes widened. It was a signed authorization form. Lucas's signature. Her pulse roared in her ears. "He's been stealing from the company?" Her father nodded grimly. "And funneling it through Sophie." Emma's hands clenched into fists. The manipulation. The lies. Lucas hadn't just been gaslighting her about Sophie's place in their lives. He had been using her. He had married her to get access to her family's wealth. And Sophie? She wasn't just his sister. She was his partner in crime. A slow, burning rage built inside Emma. Every moment of doubt, every time she had questioned whether she was being unreasonable, it all made sense now. She had been played, but they had underestimated her. Because Emma Carter was not the kind of woman who sat quietly while people stole from her. She inhaled deeply and met her father's gaze. "How much power do I have?" she asked. Her father's brows lifted slightly, but there was a glint of approval in his eyes. "As of last week, you hold majority shares." A slow, deliberate smile spread across Emma's face. "Then let's pull the plug." Her father leaned back in his chair, watching her carefully. "You understand what this means? You're not just cutting them off financially. You're declaring war." Emma's eyes darkened. "No," she said calmly. "I'm ending one." Emma stepped out of her father's office with a cold, unwavering purpose. She had spent too long being manipulated, doubted, and made to feel like she was overreacting. But now she had proof. Lucas and Sophie had built their game on deception. But they had made one fatal mistake. They underestimated her. She took the elevator down to her own office, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor as she walked inside. Her assistant, Lily, glanced up, immediately sensing something was off. "Emma?" she asked cautiously. "Call a board meeting," Emma said, her voice sharp, leaving no room for discussion. "In 1 hour." Lily hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Lucas is." Emma cut her off with a look. 1 hour. Lily. Lily nodded and grabbed the phone. Emma shut the door behind her and sank into her chair, exhaling slowly. Her hands trembled slightly, but it wasn't fear, it was fury. She pulled up her email and typed a message to their legal team. "Freeze all pending transactions authorized by Lucas Carter. Effective immediately." Next, she sent another email to security. "Restrict Lucas Carter's access to all financial systems. He is no longer authorized to make company-related decisions." She wasn't going to let him take another dime from her company. Her company, because as of today, Lucas Carter was nothing more than a liability. Her phone buzzed. "Lucas." She let it ring. A moment later, a text popped up. "Where are you? We need to talk." She smirked. Oh, they were going to talk. All right. 1 hour later, the boardroom was filled with executives. Some looking confused, others whispering amongst themselves. Emma walked in with an air of quiet authority. Lucas was already there, standing at the head of the table, looking irritated. Sophie sat beside him, feigning innocence, but Emma could see the way her fingers tapped anxiously against the table. "Emma, what's this about?" Lucas asked, his voice carefully controlled. Emma slid a folder across the table. Lucas barely glanced at it. "What is this?" Emma tilted her head. "You should recognize it. After all, you signed off on most of it." Lucas hesitated, then flipped the folder open. His face drained of color as he took in the documents: bank transfers, shell accounts, Sophie's real identity. This isn't what it looks like," he said quickly. Sophie shifted beside him, her expression darkening. "Emma, you don't understand." Emma leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've been funneling money out of Carter Holdings. Lying to me, manipulating me. And Sophie?" Her gaze flicked to the woman who had inserted herself into their lives like a parasite. You're not his sister. You're his accomplice. Sophie's jaw tightened. You're being ridiculous. Emma smiled coldly. Am I? Because as of this morning, all of your accounts have been frozen. Lucas's access to company funds has been revoked. And right now, our legal team is drafting fraud charges against both of you. Lucas's hands clenched into fists. Emma, let's talk about this. No, she interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade. You don't get to talk your way out of this. Not this time. Lucas's expression hardened. You think you can just cut me out like this? Emma's lips curled. That's exactly what I'm doing. A beat of silence. Then Lucas exhaled sharply, his nostrils flaring. You think you've won? Emma straightened, adjusting the cuffs of her blazer. I don't think, she said, stepping away from the table and heading toward the door. I know. And with that, she walked out, leaving Lucas and Sophie to watch as everything they had built, their lies, their deception, their stolen wealth, collapsed around them. Lucas stormed out of the boardroom, his face red with fury. Sophie trailed behind him, her usual composed demeanor cracking. This isn't over, he hissed under his breath as he caught up with Emma in the hallway. You don't understand what you're doing. Emma didn't stop walking. She had expected this. Lucas had spent years talking his way out of every mess he created, charming and deceiving people into believing whatever version of reality benefited him. But this time, there was no smooth talking his way back into power. She turned sharply, facing him head on. You mean I don't understand how you stole from me? How you used my company, my legacy, to fund your little games? How you paraded around your sister, when in reality, she was your partner in crime? She laughed coldly. No, Lucas, I understand perfectly. Lucas lowered his voice, his eyes darting around the hallway. We can fix this. You don't have to destroy me. Emma's lips curled into a smirk. I'm not destroying you, Lucas. You did that all by yourself. Sophie stepped forward, finally finding her voice. You're making a mistake. Emma arched a brow. Oh, really? Because from where I'm standing, the only mistake I made was trusting either of you. Sophie clenched her fists. You think you're better than us? You think you're untouchable? Emma tilted her head slightly. No, Sophie, I just think I'm smarter. Lucas grabbed Sophie's arm before she could say anything else. Let's go, he muttered, pulling her away. This isn't over. Emma watched them go, their hushed argument echoing down the hall. No, this wasn't over. Not yet. Back in her office, Emma let out a slow breath, steadying herself. Lily was already waiting inside, her phone in hand. Security just confirmed that Lucas's access to all company systems has been revoked. She said, also, legal is finalizing the fraud charges. They're ready to move forward whenever you give the word. Emma nodded. And the investors? Lily smiled. They're fully backing you. After seeing the financial discrepancies and how you handled the situation, the board has unanimously agreed to reinstate you as sole CEO. Emma sat down in her chair, absorbing the weight of it all. It was over. Lucas was out, Sophie was out, and Carter Holdings was hers again. A sense of finality settled over her, but not relief. Not yet. There was still one more thing left to do. Lily, she said, glancing up. Schedule a press conference. Lily blinked. Are you sure? This is still a delicate situation. Emma nodded. Exactly. And I want the world to hear the truth, from me. The next morning, the conference room was packed. Reporters filled every seat, cameras flashing as Emma stepped up to the podium. She took a steadying breath, then spoke. There have been a lot of rumors circulating about recent events within Carter Holdings. She began. I won't waste your time with denials or excuses. The truth is, Lucas Carter, someone I once trusted, abused his position and engaged in financial misconduct. A murmur spread through the crowd. I want to make one thing clear. This company was built on integrity. And I refuse to let anyone tarnish that legacy. Effective immediately, Lucas Carter is no longer affiliated with Carter Holdings. The legal process is already underway. And justice will be served. Another round of flashes from the cameras. But this isn't just about one man's betrayal. She continued. It's about resilience. It's about standing up when people try to tear you down. And it's about reminding the world that no one, not even those closest to you, can take away what you've rightfully earned. Her voice was steady, strong, unshaken. The moment she finished speaking, the room erupted with questions. But Emma didn't need to say anything else. Because the world finally knew the truth. And Lucas Carter? He had just lost everything. That evening, Emma sat in her office. The city skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The press conference had been a success. News outlets were already running headlines about Lucas Carter's downfall, his financial schemes, and the legal action now unfolding against him. Social media was ablaze with discussions about corporate corruption, about powerful women reclaiming their space, about betrayal and justice. And yet, despite the victory, Emma couldn't shake the lingering weight in her chest. She had spent years believing in Lucas, building a life with him, trusting him. Cutting him out wasn't just about the company, it was about cutting out a part of herself that had once seen him as her partner. Her phone vibrated. A text from Lily. "You should see this." A link followed. Emma clicked it. A leaked recording. Lucas's voice came through the speaker. Sharp. Agitated. "Emma thinks she's won. She has no idea what's coming." Emma's stomach twisted. Then Sophie's voice, calm, calculated. "You can't touch her now. Lucas, you lost." A beat of silence. "I don't need to touch her," Lucas said coldly. "All I have to do is remind her what she's really afraid of." The recording ended. Emma exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of her desk. She had expected Lucas to retaliate. But this felt different. This wasn't about money. This was personal. A new text from Lily. "He's still in the city." Emma closed her eyes for a brief second. Centering herself. She had fought too hard. Lost too much. To let Lucas crawl back into her life and manipulate her again. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door. It was time to end this. Emma stepped out into the crisp night air. The city lights flickering like distant stars against the dark skyline. Her heart pounded as she walked toward the black car waiting for her. Lily was already inside, her face illuminated by the dim glow of her phone screen. "He's at the Empire Lounge," Lily said, barely looking up. "Private VIP section." Emma slid into the seat beside her, exhaling slowly. "Then that's where we're going." Lily hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" "He's cornered, Emma, and cornered men do desperate things." Emma turned to her, eyes steady. "That's exactly why we need to make sure he stays cornered." The car pulled away from the curb, weaving through the city streets toward Midtown. As they neared the towering, glass-fronted club, Emma's grip tightened around the clutch in her lap. This was the final move. The last confrontation. Inside, the bass of the music pulsed through the walls. But Emma barely noticed. She walked with purpose, Lily at her side, past the velvet ropes and up the stairs to the VIP lounge. A bouncer stepped forward, but a quick flash of a well-placed tip and Lily's sharp gaze had them stepping aside. There he was, Lucas Carter, sitting in the dim glow of a low-lit chandelier, a tumbler of whiskey in hand. He was alone, hunched over the glass, his once perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled. He didn't look up as they approached. "You're losing your touch, Lucas," Emma said smoothly, sliding into the chair across from him. "Or maybe you just lost everything." Lucas's fingers curled around the rim of his glass. But he didn't drink. Slowly, he lifted his gaze, his expression unreadable. "You should be thanking me." Emma arched an eyebrow. "Oh, and why is that?" He leaned back, studying her. "Because if I hadn't made the mistake of underestimating you, you wouldn't be sitting where you are now. And you," he glanced at Lily, "would still be hiding in the shadows." Lily scoffed. "You really don't know when to shut up, do you?" Lucas smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. He swirled the whiskey in his glass before setting it down with deliberate slowness. "You think you've won," he said, his voice softer now, almost thoughtful. "But you don't understand the game." Emma crossed her arms. "Enlighten me." Lucas exhaled a short laugh. "You spent all this time trying to bring me down. You think getting me out of the company means you're free of me?" He leaned forward. "Emma, you built Carter and Company with me. Every contract, every deal, your fingerprints are all over them. And you don't get to wash your hands of it now. Emma's stomach clenched. But she kept her expression cool. I didn't do anything illegal. Lucas, that was all you. Maybe, he admitted, but perception is everything. And I still have friends. People who owe me favors. He tilted his head. You think the media loves a redemption arc? Wait until they get their hands on a scandal. Lily shifted beside her. You're bluffing. Lucas smiled, slow and measured. Am I? Emma studied him, her mind racing through every possibility. Every angle. Then she smiled back. You really don't get it. Do you? She said. Voice silk smooth. Lucas frowned. Emma leaned in slightly. You're not the threat anymore. Lucas, you're the liability. And those friends you think you have? She tilted her head. They've been calling me all day. Offering deals. Information. Because no one bets on a sinking ship. Lucas's smirk faltered. I made sure every step I took was clean. Emma continued. But you? You were sloppy. Reckless. And now you're alone. Lucas's fingers twitched against the glass. But he said nothing. Emma straightened. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Lucas. And if you so much as breathe in my direction the wrong way, I'll make sure your name is synonymous with failure for the rest of your miserable existence. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Lucas let out a slow breath. Well, he murmured, picking up his glass again. Guess there's nothing left to say. Emma rose to her feet, smoothing down her coat. No, Lucas, there isn't. Lily stood as well, her glare lingering on him for a second longer before she turned. Emma didn't look back as they walked away. She didn't need to. Lucas Carter had already faded into the past. A week later, Emma stood in the penthouse office of Carter & Company, her office now. The view of the city stretched endlessly before her. The skyline bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. She pressed her fingers against the smooth glass, taking a deep breath. It was over. Lucas was gone. His name removed from every contract, every office wall, every financial record. The Carter & Company empire no longer belonged to him. It belonged to her. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. Lily stepped in, a bottle of champagne in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. Figured this calls for a celebration, she said, grinning. Emma turned, a slow smile spreading across her face. I think you're right. Lily popped the bottle with a practiced ease, pouring them both a glass. To new beginnings, she toasted. Emma clinked her glass against Lily's. To never being underestimated again. They drank, the crisp taste of victory fizzing on Emma's tongue. For the first time in years, she felt light, no shadows lurking behind her, no threats looming over her future. Her phone buzzed on the desk. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. She didn't have to guess who it was. Lucas. She let it ring. Then, just as it was about to go to voicemail, she picked it up and answered. Emma. Lucas's voice was quiet, almost resigned. Congratulations. She smirked. Didn't expect you to say that. There was a pause, then a dry chuckle. Neither did I. Emma leaned against her desk. What do you want, Lucas? Another pause. Then, a second chance. Emma inhaled slowly, considering. Then she exhaled, a soft, almost amused laugh escaping her lips. You had your chance, Lucas. She ended the call. Then she blocked his number. Lily raised an eyebrow. That was satisfying to watch. Emma shrugged, setting her phone down. Some things aren't worth a second chance. She turned back toward the window, watching as the city stretched before her, the future open, limitless. For the first time, she wasn't chasing someone else's dream. She was building her own. This story is a powerful reminder that strength is not about how hard you fall, but how you rise after being broken. Emma was betrayed, underestimated, and nearly erased from the very company she helped build. But instead of letting revenge consume her, she used her intelligence, resilience, and strategic thinking to reclaim what was rightfully hers. This is a lesson in perseverance, self-worth, and the power of taking control of your own destiny. What do you think about Emma's journey? Comment 2 if you loved this story, or 7 if it wasn't your favorite. And if you want more incredible Reddit stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Reddit Story for more gripping tales of justice, betrayal, and redemption.